Teams need to reload, but they need the players to do it. We're going to break down the best in both the portal and the high school ranks as Travis Branham, the czar of the portal, is joining myself and E-Boss. All right, Trav, want to start, first of all, the same way we did yesterday. Another day brings another big commitment. Kentucky, even though they play in the Sweet 16 tonight, just landed a commitment from Tulane transfer Kam Williams. What can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this addition for Kentucky and Mark Pope for next season. 6'8", long, athletic wing that is on a great trajectory when you look at the track record of his development going from high school to this year at Tulane. A guy that can defend multiple positions, has great elevation off the floor, and he's continuing to gain more and more confidence and is polishing his skill set more and more each day. So I think next year, the way he fits into this system and that Pope has running, he can really step out and stretch the floor on the wings. And then defensively, he brings more length and athleticism that they really haven't had this season with this Wildcat roster. So they are evolving, and it's a great first piece to the puzzle for next year.
And I just love the way that Pope prioritizes shooting. Shooting is I should say spacing is a byproduct of shooting, and Pope seems to really understand that. Bossi, I want to run a guy by you that Trav and I spoke about yesterday. That's Donovan Dent, who is, I think we would all probably agree, the best available lead guard in the portal. We talked about him yesterday, but what's the latest that you are hearing from the New Mexico transfer?
Yeah, obviously the speculation all winter long was that Donovan Dent would be going into the transfer portal. Richard Pitino taking that Xavier job made it a lot easier. It really seems to be boiling down to two teams, two blue bloods here. There's been a lot of talk about Kentucky and a lot of talk about potentially going out west or staying out west as home in California with UCLA. It's one that I don't expect Dent to take any visits. He doesn't need to be wined and dined. He knows the facilities are great. He knows they can take him out to a nice dinner. This is about fit and opportunity to potentially help a program to the Final Four. And as things stand, most of the buzz seems to be heading UCLA's way. And I think there's a good chance that the Bruins could end up pulling this one off.
All right, very interesting. That would obviously be huge for Mick Cronin and the UCLA Bruins. Trav, want to kind of go quick hitter style on some of the guys we've already talked about in recent days and just get an update if there is one. I'm going to start with this. Bryce Hopkins from Providence. What's the latest?
Yeah, he is ramping things up as we speak. He is currently on campus at Georgetown, and then he is heading to St. John's. It is winding up to be a battle between those two programs. Obviously, Georgetown has his former head coach from Providence in Ed Cooley, and so that's going to be a tough relationship for St. John's to overcome. But I am absolutely keeping a close eye on St. John's and then potentially intercepting this transfer.
I mean, it is negotiation season to be sure. I mentioned you guys that Hunter Dickinson was in studio last night. It is amazing to get the player's perspective on what goes on behind the scenes in the transfer portal, but leave that for another day. Isaac McKneely, Trav, talked about him yesterday. Have things evolved in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, big curveball has been thrown. It was a battle between North Carolina and Louisville, and frankly, Louisville was starting to run away with this one, and we're expected to land him potentially as soon as this weekend. However, a new school has emerged, and that is Tennessee, and they are going to be getting him on a visit this coming Monday, and he will be coming, from what it sounds like, from a visit to Louisville. So at this point, I think this has become a toss-up where Louisville was on the brink of landing this one. It's now a toss-up between them and Tennessee, with North Carolina sliding into a distant third.
I mean, Rick Barnes has got a pretty good pitch there, right? It's like, hey, Dalton Knecht, Chaz Lanier. It's a pretty proven model. Slide into this one. Last one in this quick hitter fashion, Dedan Thomas from UNLV. What's the latest there?
Yeah, there's 4 schools to monitor here. And I think what happens with Donovan Dent could have a big impact on his recruitment, because 2 of those schools is Kentucky and UCLA. He is a West Coast kid, and UCLA did recruit him very hard out of high school, so they have a pre-existing relationship. So let's say if Donovan Dent lands at Kentucky, could and would UCLA make a strong push? I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that, and vice versa, I should say, as well. If UCLA lands him, Kentucky is a team to watch there. But 2 other teams to continue to monitor is Florida, the team that we have talked about all along, with assistant coach Carlin Hartman having recruited him out of high school, as well as the LSU Tigers. They have made a strong push early into this recruitment.
All right, Trav, there is a new name, a new lead guard hitting the portal in the last 24 hours, and that is Silas Demary out of Georgia. This is a prospect that I really liked in high school, and he made a considerable jump this year as a sophomore. That, to me, is why he's especially intriguing, because he's a talent, but he's also a talent with 2 years of eligibility. So for coaches looking for some type of continuity in this portal era, Demary is maybe even a little more intriguing because of that. What are you hearing thus far on him?
He is a guard that fits the mold of what a lot of teams will be looking for this cycle. So this one is going to have all the big hitters and going to be a nationwide sweepstakes race. He has not officially hit the portal yet, so teams have not been able to get directly in contact with him. But I do anticipate we are going to be seeing many of the biggest schools, not only in the Southeast, and that's going to be a tough task to overcome to get him away from his home state of North Carolina and the surrounding areas. But again, there's going to be teams to make a very strong pitch to him.
There's a new head coach at one of those jobs in the state of North Carolina, I think. Yeah, I heard he's a good recruiter. We'll see. Bossi, wanted to ask you about Josh Dix leaving Iowa. I love this guy. I mean, I think in terms of call him a wing, call him a big guard, but he drills shots. He's a functional ball handler. I think he's got more handle than people give him credit for. And he's been a solid defender. What do we know about his process at this point?
So Josh Dix is currently on the campus of the University of Kansas. They went in to do an in-home with him on Wednesday, got him on campus last night, and they are, close to home. They're actually closer to home than Iowa was, believe it or not, with his home in Iowa. But he's going to leave the Kansas visit, if they don't get him locked down, and go take a visit to Illinois. Now, he may take some other visits after that, but I really think, as it stands, that this is really shaping up to be a Kansas-Illinois battle. Creighton was thought to be the initial favorite here, but they took Owen Freeman, and for whatever reason, those two aren't going to jive together, and he doesn't want to go follow Freeman to Creighton. So it's become Kansas-Iowa. I do think that not only fit and those things matter, but distance is definitely going to play a role in this one. And I do think Kansas has a slight edge as they wrap up their visit and Illinois prepares to host him.
Interesting. Creighton is out for Josh Dix. All right, Trav, one of my personal favorites from high school, in fact, you guys will remember, he was ranked in our 24/7 Sports National Rankings because we foresaw the stardom that came to be this year in the Atlantic 10, and that's Reed Bailey at Davidson. I know there was hope that when Steph Curry got involved in his alma mater program, that might keep Bailey in town, but we are now, as I was driving in the studio today, you called and said, let's talk about Reed Bailey. I was like, wait, did he hit the portal? So tell me what's the latest with Reed Bailey.
Man, you absolutely couldn't wait to take that victory lap. But credit to you on that evaluation. Reed Bailey hit the portal last night, and the two teams that I'm looking the closest at here is Kentucky. There's been a lot of buzz that they could be very interested in him. And now after the addition of Kam Williams, I am looking to find the answer. Will they continue to pursue him in this transfer portal? But the team I'm looking at first and foremost is the Texas Longhorns. Sean Miller, let's give you a little history lesson. Sean Miller and Reed Bailey's dad were college teammates at Pittsburgh and were actually roommates. And so this is a recruitment with deep, deep ties. And obviously Sean Miller has immense resources and a new program to rebuild. So I am looking at the Texas Longhorns right now.
All right. Well, speaking of Sean Miller, here's my last question for you. Speaking of shooters and Sean Miller, here's my last question for you. Ryan Conwell, who had a terrific season for Xavier this year, he too is headed to the portal if he's not there. Truthfully, I don't even pay attention to when they formally go in the portal because coaches don't. Why should I? So what is going to be his process moving forward?
Yeah, so Texas is the leader. I would classify as leader, but it's not a guarantee he's going to end up in Austin. He is going to hear out suitors from all over the country and allow these teams to make their pitch. And based on what he hears, I mean, obviously, like we've seen time and time again, just because a player has a pre-existing relationship, played for a previous head coach, doesn't mean they're always going to follow them. And there's always that opportunity. A team can come in and intercept them. And so that's something to monitor with this one. But right now, I am thinking that Texas is the team to beat.
All right, another note around Sean Miller and his former Xavier program. Just before we went on air, we got word that Nick Lewis, a four-star prospect who's been a top 100 player in the country throughout the duration of his high school career, and he has had a storied high school career at Gonzaga and with Team Takeover. He is back on the board. That is not unsuspected. Bossi, we have just a minute or two left. I wanted to get updates on Nate Ament and Brayden Burries because we are led to believe that both of those recruitments could be wrapping up. What is the latest on those guys?
So I'm in New Jersey right now, and I actually got to see Nate and Brayden Burries play in a mall of all places last night during a high school tournament. But they are both definitely very close to deciding things, and I had a chance to speak with each of them. Nate was a little bit more forthcoming. He said that this date that's been floating around of about April 1st during the McDonald's All-American game is a chance for him to commit. May not get to that before committing. It could come as early as this weekend. I think he's got a pretty good idea of what he wants to do between Arkansas, Duke, Kentucky, Louisville, and Tennessee. But the problem is nobody else has much of an idea. Travis and I have been working this one, and if you talk to one person, oh, it's Duke. Another person, oh, John Calipari is going to come in and steal this one for Arkansas. No, Louisville's been the team to beat all along. They're going to have it done. It's really a head scratcher. He's got the coaches. He's got everyone on this one truly mystified. Now, Brayden Burries, I think that one he didn't want to talk recruiting last night. I get it. They had a really hard loss, a really tough call in the final 3 seconds of the game that cost them the game. But I do think it's quite notable that after that heartbreaking loss last night, you know what he did? He hopped in a car and he headed over to the Prudential Center to watch Arizona play Duke. Arizona he's been to unofficially and officially. They're thought to be a team that's doing really well for him. USC has been trending up a little bit for him here lately and potentially keeping him local in the SoCal area. Oregon, Tennessee still think they have chances, but Arizona, a lot of things are lining up for them. They've got the playing time available with Caleb Love out the door. They've got a really good friend of his currently on the team in Carter Bryant. Bryce James, the son of LeBron, of course, was a summer teammate of him. Him and Koa Pete have the same representation. Now, that doesn't guarantee that he goes to Arizona, but certainly you see some things lining up in the Wildcats' favor. And if we had to name, a favorite right now, we would give Arizona that slight lead.
And remember, it was just last week that Travis and I were talking about the potential for Arizona to land 2 5-star prospects. They got the first yesterday, and Koa Pete, Brayden Burries would be the second. For lots more from Eric and Travis, you can head on over to 247sports.com.